Before we begin, viewer discretion is advised. This content is for entertainment. What happens when Hollywood's sweetheart, a woman known for warmth, professionalism, and unshakable grace, finds herself cornered on live television by one of daytime's most caustic prodded and needled until something inside her finally snaps. What unfolds isn't just another celebrity interview gone awry. It's a reckoning. It's the moment when years of maintaining composure in the face of industry cruelty collide with one insult to many, when kindness draws a line in the sand and refuses to be mistaken for weakness, and when millions watch in real time, as America's sweetheart reminds everyone that grace doesn't mean silence and compassion doesn't mean doormat. This is the story of how Jennifer Garner walked onto the View set to promote a film about resilience, faced Joy Behar's escalating provocations with patience and poise, and then delivered a response so devastatingly precise that it left Joy speechless, the studio stunned, and the internet ablaze with a phrase that instantly became a cultural phenomenon. You hit a nerve. Before we get to the destruction that followed, understand what you're witnessing. This isn't just about one actress standing up to one talk show host. This is about the fundamental tension between authenticity and cynicism in entertainment. The moment when someone long labeled too nice proved that kindness armed with truth is one of the strongest weapons of all, and the reality that maintaining dignity in Hollywood is somehow treated as naive instead of admirable. The confrontation between Jennifer Garner and Joy Behar became a viral sensation not because of shouting or theatrics, but because it crystallized something millions felt while watching celebrities get torn apart for sport on daytime television. Enough. What you're about to read is the anatomy of grace used as a weapon, dignity turned into devastation, and why watching Joy Behar get intellectually dismantled by someone she underestimated became one of the most satisfying moments in talk show history. The morning Jennifer Garner arrived at the View studio, everything seemed routine, almost mundane. She was there to promote her new film, a heartfelt drama about motherhood, resilience, and overcoming tragedy, the kind of role that had defined her career over 3 decades. The promotional circuit, the talk show rounds, the orchestrated appearances designed to generate buzz and ticket sales, Hollywood business as usual. A dance Jennifer had performed hundreds of times with practiced ease. The View stage was familiar territory. The semicircular table, the colorful backdrop, the studio audience buzzing with anticipation. Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, Sunny Hosteen, Sarah, and the full panel assembled as cameras were positioned and producers called out instructions. Everything proceeded as scheduled, managed professionally, without any sign of drama. But something in the air felt different, carrying an invisible tension that rippled through the studio before anyone spoke. Maybe it was the way Joy Behar kept glancing at her notes, that familiar smirk hinting she had something planned. Maybe it was the nervous energy from producers who'd seen Joy in this mood before. Or maybe it was simply the moment when someone who had spent years being mocked for being too nice was about to hit a breaking point no one expected. The cameras rolled. The audience quieted. Whoopi introduced Jennifer with her usual professionalism, welcoming her warmly and congratulating her on the film. The opening minutes were smooth questions about the movie's themes, her collaboration with the director, what drew her to the role. Standard promotional fare, delivered respectfully. Jennifer answered thoughtfully, her warmth radiating through the screen, the quality that had made her beloved for decades. She spoke about maternal strength, the ways women rebuild after devastating loss, and the universal resilience explored in the film. The interview was substantive without being heavy, personal without being invasive, entertaining without losing depth. But Joy Behar had other plans. She had been waiting, biding her time, preparing her angle, and now, with Jennifer relaxed and the conversation flowing, Joy struck. Jennifer, Joy began, leaning forward with that smirk regular viewers recognized. You're always playing these wholesome women moms, caretakers, angels on earth. Don't you ever get tired of being nice all the time? The question landed like a barb disguised as curiosity, carrying an unmistakable condescending edge. The audience gave a small, uncertain laugh, sensing tension but unsure where it would go. Jennifer smiled politely, her practiced grace masking the flicker in her eyes that signaled she knew this wasn't going to be a normal interview. Well, she said lightly, keeping her composure, I like playing roles that reflect real people. I think there's strength in kindness, It was a perfectly measured response, diplomatic without being defensive, firm without taking the bait. But Joy wasn't finished. She was just getting started. Sure. Joy cut in, waving her hand dismissively. But do you ever worry you're not taken seriously because of it? I mean, people still call you America's mom. Doesn't that get under your skin? There it was, the shift from playful needling to something pointed, a move from provocation to genuine challenge. The co-hosts exchanged tense glances. Whoopi leaned back slightly, her body language cautious, sensing this could escalate. Sunny Hostin tapped her note cards. Sarah Ann offered a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Jennifer straightened, almost imperceptibly. I don't think compassion is weakness. Joy, she said, her voice still measured but now carrying steel. It's something we could use more of, especially these days. A subtle rebuke, gentle, but firm rejecting. Joy's suggestion that kindness was a flaw, or that being called America's mom was somehow insulting. But Joy, either missing the shift or ignoring it, pushed harder. Oh, please, Joy scoffed, her voice dripping theatrical irony. Compassion is nice, but it won't get you Oscars. Look at the industry. You've been around long enough. You know nice doesn't sell. The audience's laughter was uneven, confused. They could feel something changing could sense. Jennifer's patience thinning. This wasn't just an interview anymore. For a beat, Jennifer's expression didn't move. Then something shifted in her eyes. Something raw, long held back. She leaned forward slightly, her voice calm and steady, carrying the weight of truth delivered with quiet intensity. Maybe that's why the world's so cynical. Joy. Everyone's chasing applause instead of peace. The words hit like a shockwave. A murmur rolled through the audience. They knew they had just witnessed a moment. Joy blinked, surprised by the firmness in Jennifer's tone and the shift. From gracious guest to someone drawing a boundary. Whoopi stepped in, her mediator instincts kicking in. Okay. Ladies, she said with a forced smile. Let's not start World War II before the commercial break. But the tension lingered, heavy and unavoidable. And Joy, rather than pivoting, escalated. No, I just think it's interesting, she said, pushing forward with the boldness of someone used to speaking without consequences. Some people play nice for the camera, but don't always live that way behind it. The line hit like a physical blow. Gasps rippled through the audience. The other hosts froze, eyes wide. Joy had crossed into personal territory, suggesting Jennifer's kindness was fake, a performance, that behind the scenes she was someone else entirely. Jennifer's jaw tightened. The disbelief flickered across her face, followed by a slow inhale as she steadied herself. She had reached a decision. I hope you're not suggesting something personal. Joy, Jennifer said, her voice calm but edged, giving Joy one chance to step back. Joy didn't take it. She smiled thinly. I'm just saying Hollywood's full of surprises. It was no longer an interview. It was a challenge, a public gauntlet thrown down. Jennifer Garner Maracas, sweetheart. Hollywood's nice girl, a woman who had spent decades holding her composure, had reached her limit. Her hand tightened on the armrest. Years of media training urged her to let it go, laugh it off, avoid giving anyone a soundbite. But something inside her cracked. A line had been crossed too far. I've worked hard to stay true to myself, she said, her voice clear, trembling only with controlled emotion, righteous anger tempered by dignity. If that doesn't fit your version of entertainment, that's your problem, not mine. The audience erupted applause, loud and immediate, rolling through the studio like a wave. They recognized a rare moment, someone standing up for themselves without losing themselves. Whoopi's eyes widened. Sarah Malda. Oh my God. Sunny looked down, shuffling papers to deflect attention. But Joy didn't blink. She smirked, irritation showing through. Touchy, she muttered into her microphone on attempt to frame. Jennifer is oversensitive. It was the final straw. Jennifer turned sharply, locking eyes with Joy. When she spoke, Every word carried the weight of years of being underestimated, dismissed and mocked for having the audacity to be kind in an industry that mistakes cruelty for cleverness. You know, Joy, I came here to talk about my film, not defend my character. But since you brought it up, kindness isn't an act. It's a choice one I make every day, even when I'm sitting across from people who confuse cruelty with honesty. The studio went silent, not the charged silence from before, but the stunned kind that comes when something true lands with precision. There were no shuffled papers, no whispers, just that dense, electric Whoopi leaned forward, her voice low and urgent. "We're going to go to break," she said quickly, signaling frantically to producers, trying to cut away before things escalated further. But Jennifer wasn't done. She had held her tongue for years, maintained grace through interviews where hosts took cheap shots at her kindness, stayed professional where others would have lashed out. Now, pushed too far. She was going to speak her truth. Her voice soft, but each word hit like rolling thunder. "We don't need more cynics in this world, Joy. We need people who still believe in decency." Applause swelled again, louder, sharper, like a wave of vindication. Some audience members stood, others stared, stunned. This wasn't a meltdown or an outburst. This was moral clarity delivered with devastating control. Joy forced a laugh, trying to regain ground. "Well, looks like I hit a nerve." And then Jennifer delivered the line that would become a cultural moment, shared millions of times. The perfect summation of the confrontation in 3 words. She tilted her head, eyes steady, voice quiet, but cutting through the room. "Nah? You hit a mirror?" Gasps. Audibly, involuntary gasps. The kind that come when something is so perfectly calibrated, so piercingly true that no response is possible. Producer voices crackled through ear. Cut to commercial. Now, Whoopi's voice rose over the chatter. "We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere." As the music swelled and the cameras faded to black, the energy on set was nuclear. Jennifer exhaled slowly, her hands trembling just enough to betray adrenaline despite the calm she was holding. Joy looked away, her smile faltering for the first time as it sank in that she had been outmatched publicly, unmistakably, by someone she had underestimated. The audience whispered, phones already out, tweets already forming. The viral moment was spreading across the internet before the commercial was halfway through. When the show returned, the atmosphere had transformed completely. The warm friendliness of the opening was gone, replaced by a tense, electric charge. The audience leaned forward, hyper-attentive, aware they were witnessing something that would be talked about long after the credits rolled. Whoopi. Single quotes S voice came through the speaker, cheerful but cautious, the strained brightness of someone trying to steady a derailed conversation. "Welcome back to The View. We're here with the wonderful Jennifer Garner, who's been sharing her insights about her new film and a few other things. Too." She laughed lightly, the sound hollowed as Jennifer turned to her, expressions softening in appreciation. "Thank you, Whoopi," she said gently. "I really appreciate the conversation." The emphasis on conversation was subtle but unmistakable. Whatever this was, it had stopped being one the moment Joy turned it personal. Joy crossed her legs, smirk returning like a mask snapped back into place. The uncertainty from the commercial break was gone, replaced by defiant confidence or maybe just bravado. "We're always having conversations here." "Jenna?" she said, her voice coated in false sweetness that fooled no one. Some people just don't like when it gets real. The audience let out a collective ooh that stretched through the room, recognizing. Joy wasn't backing off, but doubling down. Jennifer's lips parted slightly, her expression a mix of disbelief and tired recognition that Joy wasn't going to let this end gracefully. Before she could respond, Sarah Haynes jumped in, her voice too bright, too urgent, as if throwing herself onto a conversational grenade. "So, Jennifer," Sarah said quickly, "tell us about this new movie. You play a mother trying to rebuild a life after a tragedy, right? It was a desperate but clear attempt to redirect, to salvage the interview. Jennifer nodded gratefully. Yes, she said, sliding back into professional mode. It's about rediscovering your strengths when life forces you to start over. It's a story about resilience. Resilience, huh? Joy cut in again, unable to stop herself. You've had to do that in your own life, right? After, everything with Ben. The words hung in the air like a bomb before detonation. The audience gasped loud, shocked. This wasn't edgy. This wasn't provocative. This wasn't even rude. It was joy, dragging Jennifer's divorcer private, without warning, without reason, weaponizing someone's tragedy for, what? A moment? A soundbite? Ratings? Jennifer blinked. For a split second, her composure faltered. You could see the mask slip, a flash of genuine hurt crossing her face before her professional armor snapped back into place. You could almost hear her breath catch. See her swallow hard. Watch her fight to maintain control of emotions. Joy deliberately tried to weaponize. Then she slowly sat back in her chair, eyes narrowing not in anger, but in something more profound. A disappointed realization about who Joy truly was beneath the comedian persona. What she was willing to do for attention. How low she was prepared to go. Whoopi's eyes widened in horror. Joy, she began, her voice carrying warning and censure. What? Joy replied with mock innocence, her hands spreading in false confusion. It's a fair question. She talks about resilience in the movie. I'm connecting it to... No, Jennifer interrupted, her voice quiet, but carrying the kind of authority that cuts through noise without needing volume. No, you're not connecting anything. Joy, you're trying to hurt me on national television, and I need you to understand something. The studio went silent again. Even the camera operators froze, sensing something important was about to be said, something that would define not just this moment, but how both women would be remembered from this day forward. Jennifer leaned forward slightly, her eyes locked on Joy with laser intensity. My personal life, my family, my children, those aren't your material. They're not fodder for your jokes or your attempts to seem edgy. They're my life. And yes, I've been through hard things like most people. But using someone's pain to get a reaction on your show says everything about you and nothing about me. The audience erupted in applause again, even louder than before, the sound rolling through the studio like audible vindication. But Jennifer wasn't finished. She'd been holding this in for years all. The times hosts had made jokes about her relationships, all the times her kindness had been mocked, all the times being a good person had been treated as weakness or naivete or something to ridicule. I came here in good faith, Jennifer continued, her voice steady, despite the emotion beneath the surface. I came here to talk about a project I care about, to share something meaningful with your audience. And you decided instead to make it about tearing me down. Why? What does that accomplish? What does it say about what we've become as a culture that we think this kind of cruelty passes for entertainment? Joy opened her mouth, but no words came out. For perhaps the first time in her career on The View, Joy Behar, the woman who always had a comeback, who prided herself on never being at a loss for words, sat speechless, unable to respond because any response would make her look worse. Sunny Hostin, who had been silent through most of the escalation, finally spoke, her voice careful. I think what we're all trying to know, Jennifer said gently but firmly. I think I've said what I need to say. Joy knows what she did. Everyone watching knows what she did. And I'm choosing not to match that energy. I'm choosing to maintain my dignity even when others won't extend me the same courtesy. Because that's what kindness actually means, not being a doormat, but refusing to become cruel, even when cruelty is directed at you. It was a masterclass in grace under pressure, in maintaining moral authority while calling out bad behavior, in standing up for yourself without sinking to the level of your attacker. Everyone in the studio, from the hosts to the audience, Do the crew understand? They were witnessing something rare and powerful. The remainder of the segment limped along with excruciating awkwardness. Sarah N. asked softball questions about the film, which Jennifer answered with professional courtesy. Whoopi avoided anything personal, keeping the conversation focused on plot points and production details. Sunny offered a few supportive comments, perhaps distancing herself from Joy's behavior. And Joy sat mostly silent, her smirk gone, her usual confidence deflated, occasionally glancing at Jennifer with an expression that might have been respect or resentment, probably both. When the segment finally ended, Jennifer gathered her belongings with the same grace she had maintained throughout. She stood, smoothed her dress, and smiled at the audience, who gave her a standing ovation that lasted far longer than producers had time for. She thanked Whoopi, nodded politely at the other hosts, and did not make eye contact with or speak to Joy Behar. As she left the stage with her head held high and her dignity, not just intact, but enhanced by how she had handled the situation. Outside the studio, chaos erupted. Paparazzi had caught wind of what happened and gathered in force, cameras raised, voices shouting over one another, all desperate for the perfect quote that would drive headlines. Security struggled to maintain a perimeter as Jennifer emerged from the stage door, her publicist beside her, trying to clear a path. Jennifer! Jennifer! Voices called from every direction, urgent and insistent. Do you have a response to Joy Behar's comments? Were you offended? Will you ever return to The View? Are you and Joy Behar in a feud? Did you expect the confrontation to go viral? The questions came rapid fire, overlapping in a chaotic blur. Camera flashes created a strobe effect across Jennifer's face. Her publicist Excuse. Ooh. Oh. Coming through, attempting to lead her toward the waiting car. Jennifer paused for a half-second, illuminated by the relentless flashes. She could have kept walking. She could have followed her publicist's advice and stayed silent. She could have let the moment speak for itself, without adding anything to the narrative already forming. Instead, she turned slightly toward the press, composed herself, and delivered one more perfectly calibrated line, her voice calm and clear, despite the chaos. Sometimes silence says everything. Then she got into her car. The door shut with a solid thunk that felt like punctuation. The crowd's noise immediately muffled, fading into distant echoes as the vehicle pulled away and disappeared into New York traffic, leaving behind a mob of journalists already typing furiously on their phones, uploading clips, crafting headlines for stories that would dominate entertainment news for days. Inside the now empty studio, the contrast was stark. Moments earlier, there had been bright lights, camera movement, and audience energy. Now there was only silence broken by the mechanical hum of equipment powering down. Joy Behar sat alone at the table that suddenly felt massive without the other hosts and the guest who had just left. The makeup artists and producers had scattered, giving her space or perhaps avoiding her. The hum of the stage lights buzzed overhead, a constant drone that becomes white noise until the room is quiet, and suddenly it's the only sound. Joyce stared at the spot where Jennifer had been sitting. She replayed the confrontation in her mind, seeing Jennifer's face when the divorce comment landed, hearing her own voice, saying things she wished she could take back, watching the situation spiral from provocation into something she hadn't anticipated and couldn't control. For the first time in years, maybe decades, Joy Behar looked unsure of herself, not just rattled, but genuinely shaken, perhaps even haunted by the realization that she had severely misjudged her opponent, that she had attacked someone far stronger than she expected, that she had crossed a line. The person on the other side hadn't just absorbed it, but reflected it back in a way that made Joy look small and mean. Her phone, sitting on the table, was already lighting up with notifications, texts from friends and colleagues, social media alerts showing she was trending, but not in a good way, and emails from network executives requesting urgent calls, the digital record of consequences arriving in real time. By dawn the next morning, the world was ablaze with the story. Every entertainment network, gossip site, and social media platform was replaying the same clips: Jennifer's calm devastation, the audience's shocked gasps, Joy's speechless reaction. The 10-second moment had been sliced, analyzed, GIF'd, and spread across the internet at viral speed. Good Morning America led with it. Entertainment Tonight opened with it. TMZ ran frame-by-frame analysis. Late-night hosts were already crafting jokes for their monologues. The ViewZone social media team was in crisis mode, trying to manage a comment section that had turned overwhelmingly against Joy and firmly in support of Jennifer. The hashtags multiplied throughout the morning. Hashtag #UhiTamira dominated Twitter, reaching #1 and staying there for 36 hours. Hashtag Team Jennifer and hashtag Respect Jennifer trended alongside it. More critical tags like hashtag Joy Behar Apologize and hashtag The View Toxic gained momentum as the story expanded beyond entertainment circles into broader conversations about civility, respect, and what kind of behavior should be acceptable on television. Clips flooded every platform. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Twitter videos. Each platform's algorithm recognized the engagement and pushed the content harder, creating a snowball effect that transformed a daytime talk show exchange into a genuine cultural moment. Commentators and reaction channels dissected every expression, every pause, every word choice, analyzing the confrontation with a level of intensity usually reserved for political debates or major sports moments. The contrast between Jennifer's quiet strength and Joy's aggressive provocation split audiences into passionate camps overnight. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds where people argued not just about what happened, but what it meant: kindness versus cynicism, grace under pressure versus entertainment through cruelty. Whether Joy had been doing her job or crossing a line, Jennifer Garner just reminded everyone that being kind doesn't mean being weak. One viral tweet with 400,000 likes declared, "You can stand up for yourself with dignity and grace. That's real strength." Another perspective spread quickly. Joy Behar represents everything wrong with entertainment, media attacking people personally and calling it being real. Jennifer exposed that perfectly. Even some of Joy's usual defenders struggled to justify her comment. "I normally love Joy's directness, but bringing up someone's divorce unprompted that wasn't tough questioning. That was just mean." One widely liked comment read, "Think pieces appeared within hours as outlets rushed to frame the moment in broader cultural terms." Variety published Jennifer Garner's viral confrontation exposes the View's problem with respect. The Hollywood Reporter ran When Grace Fights Back, how Jennifer Garner changed the conversation about kindness. Vox offered the cultural significance of #UhiTamira and why it resonated. BuzzFeed compiled 23 times Jennifer Garner proved kindness is actually powerful as hell. But the fallout went beyond online discourse. Real consequences began almost immediately. The View's producers met with ABC executives to discuss damage control. Ratings data showed massive spikes during the confrontation, good for the moment, potentially disastrous for the show's long-term image. Advertisers grew uneasy. Several brands quietly requested that their commercials not air during future episodes, featuring Joy until things settled. Sponsorships came under review. The calculation was simple. Jennifer Garner was beloved. Joy Behar was divisive. And brands didn't want to be linked to what was increasingly portrayed as bullying. By that afternoon, pressure had reached a breaking point. The View's PR team drafted and redrafted statements. Network executives debated whether this was another controversy that would fade or a turning point, requiring real action. Eventually, a video statement appeared on the show's social media channels. Joy Behar sitting in what looked like her dressing room, makeup toned down, expression controlled, faced the camera. "I've been reading your comments. I've been watching the clips. I may have pushed too hard yesterday. Jennifer is a class act, and if I made it personal, that's on me." It wasn't quite an apology. There was no "I'm sorry," no naming what she'd done wrong, no commitment to do better. But it was as close as Joy had ever come to admitting fault. For some viewers, it was inaug. For others, it was obvious damage control meant to steady ratings and calm advertisers, not express remorse. The internet erupted again, this time debating whether the statement counted as true accountability. Half praised Joy for addressing the issue at all. half dismissed it as corporate speak designed to protect her job. Meanwhile, Jennifer's response came not through a video or press release, but through an Instagram story posted 18 hours later. Simple white text on a black background. No photos, no video. Just, we're all human. We stumble, we react, we learn. Kindness always wins. It was quintessential Jennifer gracious, even towards someone who had attacked her, offering joy and exit without explicitly forgiving or condemning her, holding the moral high ground while refusing to prolong the conflict. The post was screenshot and shared more than 2 million times in a day, becoming its own viral momenta reminder that you can stand up for yourself and still choose grace. The confrontation became a defining moment not just for both women, but for public conversations about how we treat each other. It was studied in media classes, discussed in psychology seminars, analyzed in countless YouTube videos and podcasts, exploring why certain cultural moments resonate. What made Jennifer's response powerful wasn't anger. It was moral clarity paired with controlled delivery, the way she held her ground without stooping to Joy's level, showing that kindness isn't weakness, and grace isn't passivity. You hit a mirror became shorthand for the perfect response to projection, when someone trying to tear you down ends up revealing their own insecurities. And cruelty reflects back on itself not through retaliation, but through simple truth. Months later, when Jennifer appeared on other shows and hosts inevitably asked about the moment, she always replied with the same calm wisdom. Sometimes the universe gives you the microphone at the right time. You just have to decide what you will do with Italiano. And somewhere in her dressing room at The View, Joy Behar would occasionally watch those clips, sigh quietly, and perhaps acknowledge she'd learned something that day. Underestimating someone because they choose kindness is a mistake that leaves you staring at your own reflection when they finally push back. What began as a routine promotional interview became a cultural momenta reminder that grace isn't weakness, kindness isn't naivete. And sometimes the strongest response to cynicism is refusing to become cynical yourself. Jennifer Garner didn't arrive planning to make headlines. She came to promote a film, but when pushed past her limit, she did something far more valuable. She showed what strength looks like when it refuses to sacrifice grace to defend itself. And that mirror Joy hit revealed exactly who she'd become and why millions of people celebrating Jennifer